What's happening with Lewis Hamilton at Ferrari? The seven-time world champion, accustomed to dominating Formula One, now faces one of the most complex challenges of his career. Is he in crisis? Or are we witnessing the forging of a future legend in red? After a disastrous weekend in Saudi Arabia, Lewis Hamilton finished 7th, more than 30 seconds behind his teammate Charles Leclerc. This isn't a normal gap between two top-level drivers. Even less so when one of them is a seven-time world champion. That race was the turning point. Hamilton put it bluntly, horrible. He added that he didn't enjoy a single second behind the wheel. The sensations were so negative that he declared himself completely lost with the car. The situation hit him so hard that he decided to cancel his personal plans to dedicate that week exclusively to working with Ferrari engineers. He had planned to rest, but he traded it for data analysis, hours in the simulator, and technical meetings. That decision was no coincidence. It was a reflection of the seriousness of what he's experiencing. His adaptation to Ferrari is proving much more complex than he himself anticipated. In a team where everything is measured down to the last millimeter, Hamilton has realized he can't improvise or rely on his natural talent. He's facing a car that doesn't behave as he expects, that doesn't inspire confidence, that doesn't react like the cars he's driven for over a decade at Mercedes. This lack of confidence in the car translates directly into slow times, errors, and a visible frustration that's already starting to worry the paddock. But the most shocking thing isn't that he's having problems. It's that he himself has said they could last the entire season. Lewis Hamilton, one of the most successful drivers in the history of Formula One, has publicly admitted that he might not find solutions all year. This is a huge blow not only for him but also for Ferrari, which banked on his talent to return to the top. The change of team hasn't just been a symbolic leap for Hamilton. It was also a technical clash with a completely different car. The SF25 doesn't handle like the cars he's driven for Mercedes. One of the most radical differences is in the braking system. Ferrari uses Brembo brakes, while Hamilton worked with carbon industry for Mercedes for 15 years. At first glance, it may seem like a minor technical detail, but in Formula One, these kinds of differences completely alter driving style. Hamilton explained it clearly: Ferrari's brakes feel less firm, they move more. This affects corner entry, one of the most delicate and decisive moments of each lap. He built much of his success on precision by braking late and controlling the car to the limit. Now he feels he lacks that control. And if you can't trust the car 100%, you can't squeeze out its maximum performance. But the most shocking thing was his revelation about engine braking. Hamilton confessed that at Mercedes they practically never used it. At Ferrari, on the other hand, it's a key tool. Engine braking uses the engine's own resistance to decelerate the car before a corner, and its constant use requires a completely different technique. For a driver with so many years of experience, relearning the basics is a huge challenge. Added to this is the fact that the SF25 has a much wider balance window than he's used to. This means finding the optimal setup point is much more difficult. Every small adjustment can completely alter the car's behavior. Hamilton is struggling to find that exact point, that balance that allows him to feel comfortable and competitive. So far, he hasn't succeeded. And that, rather than frustrating him, disconcerts him. What Hamilton is experiencing at Ferrari isn't just a technical issue. It's also deeply emotional. After dominating Formula One with Mercedes for more than a decade, he now finds himself in a completely new situation. He's not in control. The sensations behind the wheel are strange, the car doesn't respond as he expects, and this creates an uncertainty that is reflected in every statement he makes. You've mentioned that you feel like the car isn't with you, that you can't find that connection between your hands and the SF25's handling. That disconnect goes beyond the technical data. It's something you experience from inside the cockpit, from the confidence a driver needs to attack each corner decisively. When that's missing, when the car doesn't give you confidence, everything becomes a constant struggle. The most worrying thing is that neither he nor the team have been able to identify a clear cause. Hamilton has been straightforward. There isn't a single problem, no specific part or system failing. The problem is more complex, more global. And this lack of answers is precisely what frustrates him the most. Because if you don't know what's wrong, you don't know where to start fixing it. This accumulation of doubts and difficulties has led Hamilton to a painful conclusion. This season may be a long and bumpy ride. Not because he's lost his talent, but because the conditions aren't aligned for him to demonstrate it. And meanwhile, each race becomes a fight not only against his rivals, but against the car itself. While Hamilton struggles to adapt, Ferrari hasn't sat idly by. Since the first races of the season, The team has been actively working on technical updates to improve the SF25's performance. Already at the Bahrain Grand Prix, they introduced a significant package of improvements, with key modifications to the floor, diffuser, and rear wing, all with a very clear objective: to generate greater rear downforce and improve the car's stability. These updates are not minor. Ferrari modified the floor rails, the sides, and the entire underbody of the car to better channel air toward the diffuser. This is a critical area as much of the cornering grip depends on it, and it's precisely here that Hamilton is having the biggest problems. The team's hope is that these improvements will not only help overall, but also make the car better suited to the Britain's driving style. For the Miami Grand Prix, Ferrari is expected to continue introducing more changes. However, there is a complicating factor: the sprint format of the weekend. With less free practice time, testing new parts or configurations becomes a logistical and technical challenge. There is no room for error or improvisation. Any update has to work from the first lap. Despite this, Hamilton has shown optimism. He spoke specifically about the new floor Ferrari has prepared, and is confident it can eliminate the deficit he has had compared to Leclerc. However, he also made it clear that not everything depends on the car. He knows that part of the work lies in his personal adaptation. But if the car starts to respond better, things can change faster than many think. Amidst the storm, one thing remains a constant: Lewis Hamilton's character and mentality. What separates the greats is not just talent, but how they respond when things don't go as expected. And Hamilton, far from giving up, has taken an attitude that speaks to his total commitment. Canceling an entire week of rest to lock himself in the simulator and with the engineers is no small gesture. It's proof that he's not willing to let this season slip through his fingers. But he's not alone. From the team, he has received absolute support. Fred Vasseur, Ferrari's boss, has been emphatic. He said he is 2000% behind Hamilton. This is no small statement. It's a clear sign that the Italian team understands that integrating a driver like Lewis takes time, and that they're willing to invest whatever it takes to make that happen. Vasseur doesn't see this as a transition phase, but rather as the true beginning of a new cycle. Vasseur has also interpreted Hamilton's frustration differently. For him, it's not a sign of weakness, but of hunger. He said that if Hamilton were happy with these results, something would be wrong. It's normal for a competitor of his caliber to be disappointed when things don't go well. That constant dissatisfaction is what, ultimately, has led him to become one of the best in history. What's brewing at Ferrari isn't just a technical adaptation. It's a transformation in progress. The relationship between team and driver is still under construction, but the foundations appear solid. Mutual respect, trust in each other's talent, and a willingness to work together to solve problems are key elements. If they can stay united despite the difficulties, this could be the beginning of something very big. The Miami Grand Prix won't be just another race on Hamilton's calendar. It will be a crucial opportunity to see if all the effort, sacrifice, and quiet work behind the scenes is starting to bear fruit. After a week of intensive work, including simulator work, technical meetings, and data analysis, the Briton will arrive at the American track more prepared than ever, but also under pressure to prove that the tide is turning. Miami also represents a global showcase. It's the first round of the season in the United States, a market where Hamilton has a huge media and commercial presence. But that spotlight also means greater demands. Everyone will be watching. Every detail will count, every session will be scrutinized. In this context, any improvement, no matter how small, will be a sign of progress. However, the sprint weekend format introduces an extra challenge. With less free practice time, opportunities to test new setups or adapt to changes are very limited. It's an environment that favors teams that already have a solid foundation, not those still in the process of understanding the car. For Hamilton, that means he'll have no margin for error. He'll have to rely on previous work and execute with precision from the get-go. Despite the challenges, there are reasons for optimism. The technical improvements Ferrari could introduce, the adaptation work Hamilton has intensified, and the team's constant support build a foundation that, while still fragile, has potential. Miami might not be the final race, but it is an important sign of where this new phase of Hamilton's career with Ferrari is headed. A turning point, or at least a firm first step towards stability. Lewis Hamilton's arrival at Ferrari was one of the most talked about moves in recent Formula One history. But what many expected to be a triumphant start has become a test of character. The difficulties have been real, the results have been disappointing, and the answers are still unclear. However, what has been proven is that Hamilton hasn't lost an ounce of the determination that took him to the top. His decision to forego rest to keep working, his honesty in admitting that he's lost with the car, and his willingness to adapt to a machine that still doesn't fully understand him, speak of an athlete who remains hungry for glory. In an era where many would have given up, he has decided to keep fighting. Ferrari, for its part, has also shown signs of being willing to walk that path with him. With constant updates, unconditional support from team management, and a long-term vision, the Scuderia seems to understand that building something great takes time. And while the results are yet to arrive, the process is already underway. The Miami Grand Prix presents itself as a first major test, not only in terms of results, but as a barometer of the true potential of this alliance. If there is progress, it will be a sign that the direction is right. If difficulties persist, further adjustments will be necessary. The important thing is that, for the first time in a long time, the story of Ferrari and Hamilton seems to be being written through genuine effort, humility, and a willingness to evolve. This may not be the dream start, but it could be the necessary beginning to build one of the most memorable stories in the history of modern Formula One.